Hello everybody, and welcome back. My name is Kari, and today I am doing my April TBR. So the theme for the month is on loan. Mostly the library, simply because I have a lot of books from the library and other people that I'm borrowing, and therefore I need to get through these before I really address my own shelves again. Apparently having a library month is going to happen a couple of times a year because I just really like using my library. But anyway, let's get started. The first one is actually one that is on my shelves, and that is The Bombay Prince by Sujata Massey. This is the third in a 1920s historical murder mystery series. And it's set in India, 1920s, I said that. First woman solicitor in India. It's really fun. The first one definitely takes a little bit more to get into, but I love the atmosphere and I love seeing what she does and how the plots are woven. So I'm excited to get to this one because I wanted to get to this one back in October, but that didn't happen. Several months later. Then we have one that I'm currently reading, which is The Weight of Ink by Rachel Kadish, or Kadish. At any rate, I have not read this one yet, but I've had it on loan since November. My bad. At any rate, this is a dual timeline, 1660s and 2000s, with an aging scholar of Jewish history, and in the 2000s, and then in the 1660s, a scribe for a blind rabbi. So far, I'm really enjoying it. I'm about 87 pages in, and it's not a fast book necessarily as far as the plot, but it's really good. So I'm enjoying this so far, and I will finish. Then, library book. Rebels Against the Raj by Ramachandra Guha. This has to do with four British, 2 American, and 1 Irish people who are fighting against British colonialism in India. I was really intrigued because usually we focus on, the people of that nationality, of that country, who were fighting the colonizers. And I'd still want to learn more about the ordinary men and women who were fighting. But also I was just very intrigued because we don't hear a lot about the people of the white people who are fighting against the colonization. So it should be interesting. Then we have The Ethical Slut by Janet Hardy and Dossie Easton. This is the 3rd edition, and it is all about polyamory. I'm trying to broaden my horizons in all directions, and this is one of them. Then we have The Queen's Slave Trader, John Hawkins, Elizabeth I, and the Trafficking in Human Souls by Nick Hazelwood. It's nonfiction, it does what it sounds on the tin. I'm expecting this to be maybe not quite as brutal as reading something about the slave trade in the late 1700s or early 1800s, but I'm not expecting it to be happy. However, I don't know much about sailing or slave trading in Elizabeth's time. I've largely focused on her person and her courtiers lately and historically, so I'm very interested to pick this up and continue my dive further into Elizabeth's times and her court and the seedy underbelly. Speaking of, we have The Pirate Queen, In Search of Grace O'Malley and Other Legendary Women of the Sea by Barbara Sjöholm. This obviously talks about Grace O'Malley, but it also talks about other women of the sea, as the title might suggest. So we start in Ireland with Grace O'Malley during Elizabeth's times. I think Grace was born in 34 and died in 1603, She's really, really close in age and years to Elizabeth, which is fascinating to me, and I love it, and I want to learn more about her as well. Oh, that's right. The author here travels through coastal communities and seafaring ports to collect stories of women at sea. She focuses particularly on North Europe, so Scandinavia and kind of the British Isles. Then we have Hunting Pirate Heaven, In Search of the Lost Pirate Utopias of the Indian Ocean by Kevin Rushby. This one is a little bit different than what I thought it was, so if I don't get to this one, I'm probably just going to return it and not be heartbroken. But it sounded interesting enough. It is nonfiction. I think most, if not all of these are nonfiction. And in current times, he's looking around for pirate settlements that have since been lost to the elements, more or less. And it sounds interesting, but I'm not generally a modern person. Other than, my use of electronics and the fact that I can hold a job. But not what I meant. I don't necessarily enjoy reading about modern times. However, I do enjoy searches. So we'll see how this goes. Then, one I'm borrowing from my boss is The Blinding of Sergeant Isaac Woodward and the Awakening of America by Richard Gurgle. Or Unexampled Courage, sorry. That's the title, and then that's the subheading. Isaac Woodward was... I don't know if he's alive still. It's very possible he is. Anyway, he was a black soldier in World War II. He gets on a bus in Georgia in '46 and is blinded by the police. This is his story and all of that. I'm not necessarily expecting this one to be happy either, because when you start on the premise that someone was blinded simply because of his race, I don't know how you ever expect that to be happy. But it should be interesting, and I'm excited to learn more about this man's story. One I am borrowing from a friend is Animal Vegetable Miracle by Barbara Kingsolver. I've not read anything by Kingsolver yet. I think I own one of her books somewhere over here, I think. But I haven't read anything by her yet. This is just a year of food life, and it sounded interesting. So she vow only to buy food raised in their neighborhood that they've grown themselves, or they just don't eat it. And they do that for a year, she and her family. That sounds really hard, like way too much work for me because I don't grow things. But it sounds really interesting, and we'll see how it goes. Then we have Sir Francis Drake by John Sudgeon. This is a biography of Francis Drake. Elizabethan pirate, he's kind of well known, circumnavigated the globe, whole thing. Enough said. We also have Eleanor of Aquitaine by Alison Weir. I love Alison Weir, I've said it before, I think she's a phenomenal historian. I don't know much about Eleanor of Aquitaine other than mother of Richard the Lionheart and John. No, nobody wants John. But I know that she had a wild ride of a life, so I'm excited to read this and learn more about her. And then last but not least, this is probably the least historical of them, except it is historical because it's How Victorian Geologists Discovered the Secret of Life. So the actual title is Reading the Rocks by Brenda Maddox. Obviously this is going to look at Victorian geologists, including Anne, what's-her-name, who collected seashells. It is historical, but it is more scientific based than the rest of the books here. So I'm excited to read this one as well, and on top of that it's fairly short, so it shouldn't, hopefully, right, knock on wood, there we go, I have wood shelves, shouldn't take me too long, and should be a nice little break from all of the really intense history that I will be otherwise reading. Obviously this is a themed month, so I can pick up whatever I like anywhere along my shelves, the library, should I get more, God forbid, what have you. But these are the books that I'm at least going to prioritize for the month of April. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below, and in the meantime, I'll see you in my next video. Bye!